Hi and welcome to the Crochet Circle. My name is Alex and in today's video I want to show you how to make a letter O. But before I get started, as you perhaps already know from before, I'm just gonna go and sketch it out. So the letter O is gonna have a base of chain of 16, then single crochets, then a bit of extending, a bit of single crochets again, then this is gonna be actually part 1 of the letter O, and then the next part is starting with a decrease, doing 7 single crochets, and then continuing with 8 single crochets all the way up. Now the next part is gonna be joining part 1 and part 2 together with chains of 6, and then just doing the top part, but as I said, it's all part of part 2 of the letter O. Don't forget, I'm gonna have all the timestamps down in the description below. So the beginning, the extending, the reducing, the joining part 1 and part 2, the joining with the chains on top, and then again the reducing, and then finishing off. I'm gonna do 2 letters O that I'm gonna then join, and I'm gonna also put some stuffing in, so it's gonna be a bit more three-dimensional. I'm gonna leave the sketch up here in the top left corner, and I know I've been using mostly a 3mm hook, but this yarn that I have here is a bit thinner, so I'm gonna be using a 2.5mm hook. And now I can begin. So in the beginning it says I need a chain of 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. Now to go into the next row, I'm doing a chain 1, and in the second loop from the hook I'm gonna do a single crochet. That's 1, and I need 15 more, so altogether it's gonna be 16. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and the last one is the 16th single crochet stitch in the 16 chains that I've made. Now row number 1 is done. Now I need 4 rows of increases on the left and on the right side, and there goes my phone. Okay, so row number 1 is done, and I said I need 4 rows of increases. Increases are just doing 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So I'm gonna do chain 1 just to go into the next row, and I'm gonna do 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Now I'm gonna be doing single crochets till the last stitch, where again I'm gonna be doing an increase stitch. That means 2 single crochets in the same one. And that kind of a row I have to repeat 4 times. For the past month or something like that, I have been using only a much thicker crochet hook, the 3mm one, and I've been also using one that was 4mm. So this one that is actually 2.5 seems so small at the moment, so I have to get used to it again. Now I'm at the last stitch, that means an increase. And that's row number 1 like that done. I need 3 more. An increase in the beginning and an increase at the end. And increase in the last stitch. Turning the work around, again an increase in the beginning, and an increase will also be in the last stitch. This yarn that I currently have, it's a bit tricky because it's woven together with 2 different types of threads, so hopefully I won't lose half of the yarn somewhere halfway down the work. Now I'm at the last stitch, that means an increase. Again, I'm doing a chain 1 to go up into the next row, and this is gonna be an increase as the first stitch, and then single crochets till the other side, and the last stitch will also be an increase. Would be good if I would also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, this is the last row of the increases at the beginning, at the end, and at the end. And after this row, I'm just gonna do 2 more rows. There is gonna be only single crochets. I'm just gonna double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 1 row of single crochets and 5 rows of increases. Now I'm just gonna do single crochets twice. So, you know, I like to break my pattern down into chunks, and I do reset the counting when doing that. So even though I finished 5 rows, I said in the first row just single crochets, then 4 rows of increases, and now 2 more rows of just single crochets. That means it's gonna be 7 rows done, and the whole letter is 30 rows high. I do wonder how high the letter will actually be, because I think it's gonna be like 10 centimeters. I am using a bit smaller hook than usual and a bit thinner yarn. I need to get the last one in as well. And now 1 more row of just single crochets. Now I'm on row number 7, so this means I'm here, and I will be reducing. Because it's an easy reduce, I just do 7 single crochets and a decrease stitch. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a decrease stitch. And for a decrease with all the letters, from the first stitch I only take the front loop, and then in the next one I go in and take both loops, so I have 3 loops on my needle from the bottom and my working loop, so it's actually 4 loops, and then I just go and join it all together. So now I have to do 8 single crochets up, 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 and I actually need to do 16 rows of it. Just doing 8 single crochets in each row. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I have 8 single crochets still in my round, so everything is still intact. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. A few more. I'm gonna count from the bottom, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20, and I need 2 more rows of just 8 single crochets. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Perfect. After that, I'm gonna be able to cut the yarn and then start with part number 2. And this is the last stitch. I'm gonna do a chain 1, cut the yarn and pull it through. I know I shouldn't have my drink anywhere near my work, but I didn't learn the last time when I spilled my tea over some white yarn. Okay, so this is part number 1 done. So I'm gonna begin with part number 2. And part number 2 actually goes into the 9th stitch from the end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or if you wanna count it from the other side, I have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches left between part 1 and part 2. So to begin part 2, I already put in my needle through both of the loops. I'm gonna do a slip stitch, I'm gonna do a chain 1, and then the first stitch is actually a decrease. That means from the same stitch where I've put in the slip stitch, I'm just taking the front loop, and then from the next one I'm taking both loops and joining it together. Now what I'm also gonna do, this is the end tail, I'm gonna put it over my work of the previous round and just work it in. And I need 7 more single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So altogether I have 8 stitches. Now I am on the rows where I only have to do single crochets, and I have to go up to 15. This is now the second one that I'm currently doing. Then in the 16th row I will be joining part 1 and part 2 with chains. just 8 single crochets in each row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Now this letter O is actually really similar to letter U as well, because if I would just continue on the part 1 all the way up to row number 30, and I wouldn't stop here on this part 2 in the 16th row where I'm gonna join part 1 and part 2 together, and I would be doing the 8 single crochets all the way to the top. I would get a letter U. But don't worry about it, there will come another tutorial also just for the letter U out. Or if you're watching it sometime in the future, it is already probably out in my list, because the goal is to do the whole alphabet series. I'm just gonna count the rows. So that means this one is with this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is row number 12. And I need to go up to 15, because the 16th row will be where I'm gonna join part 2 and part 1 together. I'm just gonna count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. One more row. This is row number 15. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 single crochets. I'm doing a chain 1 to going up into the next round. Now I'm gonna do 7 single crochets, and then in the 8th one it's gonna be an increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, and now it's gonna be an increase stitch. That just means 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Now I have to do chain of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I have to join it with the top of part 1. As you can see, I'm trying to put the end tail of part 1 into my work, because in the end I don't have to worry about and I made a mistake because the first stitch here is an increase. That means I have to do 2 single crochets in the same stitch and then single crochets till the end. That means 7 more single crochets till the end of the row. Now the next 2 rows are actually similar to what I was doing on the bottom, so the next 2 rows are gonna be just single crochets. I don't like this stitch because it's way too big and I don't want any holes in my work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Now I need 6 single crochets here in the chains. The first one is a bit small, but as long as you know you need 6 of them, I know you will be able to do it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and now 9 more single crochets. Now I need another row of just single crochets, so I've already done chain 1 to go into the next row, and now just single crochets from start to the finish. After that I'm gonna have 4 rows of decreases because I wanna have a narrower top than the body is. So after this row it's gonna be 4 rows of decreases and it should be symmetrical. That's why I'm gonna be doing decreases at the beginning and at the end of each of the next 4 rows. Chain 1, now a decrease, that means I'm getting just the front loop, and then in the next stitch I'm taking both loops, pulling it through once and twice. Now just single crochets till the end of the row, and when I'm gonna have just 2 more stitches left, I'm gonna make a decrease. A decrease just meaning making 1 stitch out of 2 stitches of the previous round, just like an increase means making 2 stitches out of 1 from the previous round. So a decrease does a subtraction, it subtracts 1 stitch, and an increase adds a stitch. I've just done a decrease. Again, a decrease, just the front loop, both loops, and then go through both. I know while doing amigurumi and other things in a round, if you want to do an invisible decrease, you take just from both stitches, just the front loops, but that doesn't work like that in this flat kind of a state while doing the letters. So a decrease from the first stitch, take just the front loop, and then from the second stitch you take both. So from the first one just the front, and from the second one go through both. I'm just gonna redo a stitch because I didn't do it properly. So that's 2 rows of decreases done. I need 2 more. Again, a decrease in the beginning, and a decrease will also be at the end. And after that I'm gonna have just 1 more row of just single crochets, and then the letter O will be done. Last 2 stitches, that means I need to do a decrease, chain 1, and the beginning is again a decrease. Now single crochets till the end of the row, where the last stitch is again gonna be a decrease. I'm at the last 2 stitches, so a decrease. Now I'm on the last row. That means I just need to do single crochets from start to finish. I'm gonna do a chain 1 and cut the yarn. So as you can see, the first letter O is done. It is a bit smaller because I'm using a bit smaller hook, but it's still gonna be seen, and you are still gonna be able to put it on a wall because you're probably using all the same yarn for all the letters, not like me, when some yarn is a bit thicker and some yarn is a bit thinner, because I'm just using all the scraps that I have at home. Okay, the first one is done. Now I'm up to the second one, so I'm gonna again begin with chain of 16. And I lost a stitch. I'm just gonna begin again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Chain 1, and now in the second loop from the hook I need to start with 16 single crochets. Now that's 2 done. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and the last one is number 16, and row number 1 is done. So now I have 4 rows of increases, meaning an increase doing 2 single crochets in the same stitch in the beginning and in the end, and in between is just single crochets. Now I'm at the last stitch. That means I have to do an increase, just 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Now the next row, the first stitch is again an increase and then just single crochets. And the last stitch is an increase. Two more rows like that. And the last stitch is an increase. Now the first stitch is an increase, and the last one will also be an increase, and I'm gonna be soon done with this section of 4 increases. and the last one is an increase. So I have the first row of just single crochets, then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of increases. Now I have 2 rows of just single crochets. And the last stitch of the round. Now I'm here where it's kind of a easy reduction, so it's gonna be just 7 single crochets and a decrease. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a decrease. And I need altogether 16 rows of this, how should I call it? Backside of the letter O done. Backbone. And it's just 8 single crochets up to row number 15. I'm just gonna count to see how far along I am. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I need 6 more rows like this. I'm gonna count the rows again, so that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 2 more rows, and then part 1 will be done. I'm just gonna double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And another 8 single crochets, and part 1 of the second letter O will be done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm gonna do a chain 1, and I can cut the yarn. Now I can just pull the yarn through and begin with the second part that is gonna be coming up to here, and then joining it to part 1 up there on the top. So what I need to do is I need to go into the 9th stitch from the end. So I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches left on the inner side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, because the first stitch is actually a decrease. So what I'm gonna do is I just made a loop, a slip stitch. I'm gonna do a chain 1, then from the same space where I've put in the slip stitch, I'm gonna take just the front loop, and then from the next one I'm gonna take both loops and pull it through. So I just got 1 stitch out of 2, and now I need 7 more single crochets. Altogether it's gonna be 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now I need to go up to row number 15, and then in the 16th row I'm gonna be joining the part 1 to the part 2 that I'm currently working on, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 single crochets. I didn't like the last stitch that I've done, so I'm just gonna redo that. That's 8. All the way up to row number 15, and then on the 16th row I am gonna begin with joining the part 1 and part 2 of the letter B together. Again, it's just always 8 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, all the way up until I come to row number 15. With row number 16, I'm gonna begin with joining part 1 and part 2. I'm just gonna count the rows now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now that's 13. 14. 15. 'Now I'm at row number 16, where I'm gonna be joining the top and the bottom part with 6 chains. So that means first I'm gonna do 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then the 8th stitch is actually an increase. Now I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chains, join it with end of part 1, and the first stitch here is an increase, so I have to go in and I have to do 2 single crochets. So that means 1, 2 and 7 more single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and don't forget, perhaps you can do as I do, just get the end tail of part 1 worked into your work already now, so you don't have to worry about it at the end. Uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Because 1 increase and then just single crochet 7. Now the next 2 rows are gonna be just like on the bottom part, just single crochets. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 single crochets. Now I need 6 single crochets in the 6 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and another 9 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now the next row is again just single crochets from the beginning to the end. So it's just single crochets. Now the next 4 rows is the decreases. That means I'm gonna be doing a decrease in the beginning and a decrease at the start of the row. So I'm reducing the size, the width of the letter O. I have to stop when I have 2 stitches in the end, because I'm gonna join those 2 stitches into 1 stitch. Chain 1, turn the work around, and now the first one is again a decrease, then single crochets and a decrease at the end. And the last stitch is a decrease, and that are 2 of those decrease rows done. I need 2 more. So a decrease in the beginning. I have 2 more stitches, that means I need to do a decrease. And the last row of decreases. So that's the decrease in the beginning. I have to go till the end of the row and then do another decrease. I have 2 more stitches left, so that means it's a decrease. And the last row is just single crochets from the beginning to the end. And that means the second letter O is done as well. Just few more stitches. I did a chain 1 and I can cut the yarn. So these are my 2 O's. This is gonna be the top. And what I have to now do is put all the loose ends on the same side of the letter. Actually, this one's gonna be the bottom one. So I need to put all the loose ends on this side here. I'm missing one. Okay, there it is. And this is the last one. This is gonna be the bottom O, because this one's gonna be face side down. What you have to remember, even though the letters are symmetrical, is that you have the end of the letter O on top of both sides, so it's gonna be top on top. So with this second one I have to put all the loose ends on the back side of the letter. I don't have to work it in much because I'm just gonna sew them together. Actually, I'm gonna crochet them together, so it's already gonna be hidden inside. And this is now the last one. As you can see, I'm not doing much. Okay, so face side down, face side up, I'm gonna be joining the two O's, but first I have to join this inner circle here. So for joining, what I do is I do single crochets. I'm gonna start with the slip stitch, a chain one, and a single crochet in the same stitch. Now the next stitch is the corner one, so I'm gonna do just a slip stitch in the corner one. That means I'm turning the corner, and now I can start with single crochets in each row. And I have to go all the way around first in the inner part. Now I'm in the corner. In the corner I'm gonna do a slip stitch. It just comes much nicer doing slip stitches in the corners because it doesn't fill so much the space up. Now again in the corner I'm just doing a slip stitch, and then I can continue with doing single crochets. If you kind of stretch your work, you will see the rows much easier, so it will go through both of the O's much smoother. One more, and I'm at the corner piece. Again, I'm gonna do a slip stitch, and now I just have to do single crochets till I get to the beginning. And then I'm gonna invisibly join the two single crochets. That means I'm gonna cut the yarn, I'm gonna pull the yarn through, I'm gonna get my needle, and I'm actually gonna go into the, not into the single crochet, but into the slip stitch that I've done in the corner, because with this stitch I'm just covering the first single crochet that I made, and it goes back into the same stitch. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the yarn on the back side, and I'm gonna get the starting yarn also into the back of the letter O, and because I won't see, I can just make a really nice knot. Or 2 or 3. As long as it's gonna be secured, I don't care how many knots it is, because all is inside the letter O and you cannot see it. So this is the inner part of the letter O done. Now all I have to do is go through the outer side. I'm actually gonna start here on top. I'm just aligning the stitches a bit more, so it's gonna be then easier for me to crochet. Again, I'm starting with a slip stitch, a chain 1 and a single crochet. Now I'm just grabbing stitches and doing single crochets. When I get into the corner piece, I'm gonna do a chain 1 and I'm gonna do another single crochet in the same space, because these corners aren't 90 degrees. If it would be a 90-degree corner, I would have done a chain 2 in between those 2 stitches. Now this is another corner. I'm just gonna do a single crochet in the same stitch without any chains. And now just single crochets till the bottom of the letter. Just before I'm gonna turn the corner, I am gonna stuff this part of the letter. Now this is kind of a corner. I'm just gonna do 2 single crochets in the same stitch and then come down to the end. I'm at the end stitch. I'm gonna do a chain 1 and a single crochet again. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get some of the stuffing. I have it again somewhere not so far away from me, and I'm just gonna stuff this part of the letter O. And I'm gonna continue on the bottom side. Again, I'm aligning the stitches, stretching a bit, because it's much easier then to find where actually the stitch will go into. And And don't forget, you have to go with your crochet hook through both of the letters so that they are joined together. I've kind of missed here one stitch, so it didn't come out at the end as it should be. Now everything is aligned again. Now I can continue. Now I'm at the corner piece. I'm gonna do a chain 1 here and do a single crochet in the same stitch. Now I can continue with the side. But before I properly turn the corner, I'm just gonna fill this part here. And I can continue. Again, if you think you need more chains perhaps to turn the corner, you can do more chains, but at this stage I don't need to. So again, I'm kind of turning the corner, not a sharp corner. I'm gonna do just a single crochet and now go up to the top. Just before I'm gonna be on the top, I'm gonna stuff the bottom part of the letter O, and then it's gonna be step by step closing the letter O and filling it up bit by bit. Actually, I'm gonna fill it up a bit more. You can make it in as many steps as you want. You don't have to wait till the last, you know, inch or centimeter or gap that you will have to fill it up. Again, I'm just aligning the work because it's gonna be much easier to join. I'm back, and again I'm still just joining the two letters O. Now here is kind of a, you know, edge, so I'm just gonna put 2 single crochets in, and now I'm continuing with 1 single crochet in each row. Some rows are much easier to be done, some need just a little bit of pressure, to be honest. I'm just gonna fill here more. And now all I need to do is turn the corner and fill it till the end, aligning the stitches. This is my corner one. I'm gonna do a chain 1 here I'm also gonna fill this letter row all the way on the left side and on the right side. And now all I have to do is join it together. Just single crochets. Together. And this is the last stitch, so I'm cutting the yarn, I'm pulling the yarn through, getting my needle not into the first one but into the second one, because I'm just covering this stitch with the invisible join. Now I'm gonna put my yarn somewhere more into the middle and the starting tail as well, because I'm gonna be doing a knot and joining, securing actually the beginning and the end of the joining of the letter O. It looks a bit strange here on this side because I didn't stuff it properly, but the more I will munch it around, the more I will squeeze it, it will take the shape that I want. So I'm just gonna pull just a bit tighter because I want the knot to go into my work. So now I pull it and you can see the knot actually disappears into the work. Now I'm gonna get my crochet hook and just pull the loose ends through, cut the excess yarn, and this is now the crocheted letter O. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you can definitely let me know. If you have any comments, any wishes, any critics, anything, yeah, comment box is down below. Let me know. If you wish any other letters, just message me and I'll try to do something about it. Until the next time, happy crafting!